We know that there were a lot of concerns with how your predecessor ran the department and with a lot of the policies and procedures coming from this agency. How will you be different?
I think one of the things that is different about me is the time I've spent here at the Maryland Department of Juvenile Services. I worked here for 11 years prior to coming back. For the past 3 years, I've worked around the country helping frontline staff see how to do the work differently. And what I bring is a renewed focus to our operations, ensuring that our operations align with our Maryland laws and statutory framework, ensuring our operations get the best outcomes for our young people, and ensuring that we are in a position to support public safety.
When it comes to public safety, that is one of the biggest issues that we've heard from state's attorneys, police officers, even parents and members of the community, is that they feel like there was a revolving door of young people cycling through the Department of Juvenile Services. What do you believe needs to change so that the revolving door stops?
I think the first thing we need to start with is renewing those partnerships with all the stakeholders you just mentioned, from law enforcement to families, to see really and listen very carefully onto how they are experiencing the system so that we can act intentionally to come up with shared solutions that will allow us to have some shared accountability in the system.
And what does accountability look like to you for both the young offenders and DJS?
Start with DJS. Accountability looks like to me that we are following the rules that are set out for us. That means we are following Maryland law and our statutory framework, and that we are doing everything we can to get our young people what they need so they can succeed, and that we are a real partner in public safety. I think what accountability looks like for young people is different based on the individual needs and circumstances. As an agency, we have to make sure that we are taking the time to dig into those individual needs, understand the situations our young people find themselves in, and then design treatment interventions that help them and put them in the best position to be able to change their behaviors.
You said that it's important for DJS to follow the laws. Do you believe that under your predecessor that wasn't happening?
I believe that we have to ensure that our operations are very closely aligned. And so I'm going to dig in and see where do we need to make some tweaks to be able to make sure that, again, we're following all the rules that are set out for us in a way that gets the best outcomes for our young people.
How do you combat this mentality of these young people who seem to know that they're not going to face accountability from this system? How do you work on that? How do you change that?
I think we change that one by listening and seeing where we're starting from, and then designing a system that has interventions that are based in what young people need so they can build skills, so that they can slow down, see the possibility of doing something different, and change their behaviors over time.
I want to see if you can clarify something for me. A previous comment of yours from 2022, you were doing a virtual speech. You said detention has a negative impact on community safety. When you're incarcerating young people who don't need to be there, they're more likely to continue that delinquent behavior. And that is very similar to some of the mindset that your predecessor had. So if that's similar to the viewpoint of the previous secretary, how will you be different?
Well, what I said is we don't get really good outcomes when we use detention inappropriately. And our statutory framework tells us when to use detention, when there's a risk to public safety, when there's a risk to the young person's safety, or when there's some thought that they may not show up for court. If we use it as we are supposed to, that's one thing. If we are using it for young people who are not appropriate for detention, that's when we get the outcomes that we don't want to see.
We've heard from prosecutors, though, that kids are getting released before they are supposed to come back for court, and then they still don't show up for those court dates. So what happens?
Well, if they don't show up for court dates, there's consequences and implications that the court can levy, such as writs and warrants. But we want to make sure that we're supporting our young people to get there. So we're going to dig in and see who's not showing up, why aren't they showing up, what strategies did we use that weren't effective, and where do we need to make changes.
Is that a failure on DJS's part to allow them to be released if they didn't show up to court? Is that something that was missed in the decision-making process to let them be released in the first place?
We're going to dig into the places where DJS has the authority to make decisions.
Looking at one of the things the state's attorneys have said that they want to see change when it comes to policy from you in this department is they want to see the detention decision moved from the Department of Juvenile Services and moved to the hands of a magistrate judge. Is that something that you are willing to entertain as secretary?
I'm going to listen to ideas that all our stakeholders have, and I'll evaluate it and see if it's something that we can operationalize or if it's something that, is outside the scope of our current framework.
I talked to several sheriffs along the way, and we've been continuing that conversation, and the prosecutors and sheriffs have said that they believe that there are several things that are wrong with the Department of Juvenile Services, and they say that you're stepping into this with a monumental task at hand. And they believe that this is going to take you months, if not years, to turn around this department. How do you go about righting that ship, knowing that there are so many issues underway?
The first thing is really hearing from all those stakeholders, like the sheriffs, like the state's attorneys, like our public defenders, our judges, everyone who's sort of involved in this system of justice, so that we can really understand how each stakeholder is experiencing the system. Where are those pain points? Where are they experiencing challenges so that we can address them? We're going to do it step by step, and we're going to put a lot of effort into making sure our operations, again, are really tied to getting the outcomes that we all want for our young people, and that we are this partner in public safety.
How long should the public be expected to wait before they start to see changes from you in this department?
I'm in it. I'm trying to make changes where appropriate as fast as we can.
Do you have a timeline?
I can't give you an actual timeline. We are in right now looking at data. We're looking at data daily.
And I'm glad you brought up data, because in the past we've struggled to get information from the department, but will you commit to being more transparent with the people of Maryland about what's going on?
Yes, absolutely.
Will you commit to being more transparent and have more interviews with the media? That was one thing the previous secretary really didn't do.
Absolutely, as much as we possibly can.
Hey, I'm Mackenzie Frost. Thanks for watching. Don't forget to like this video and subscribe to our channel. Check out Fox Baltimore on all of our social media pages for more videos just like this.